Now, we want to get back to our panel discussion about the HIV and AIDS epidemic going on right now in Prince George's County. Here, we get into how race plays a factor and what we can all do right now to help. You mentioned the idea of there being a racial component to this, and I wanted to key on that aspect of it as it relates to the stigma and as it relates to perception, because when we want to have the conversation about societal injustices and racial inequities, that's a conversation which we have often with respect to many things, but specifically with respect to healthcare, that has been a line which we haven't really as a community crossed and accepted that there are some realities of treatment that we can take advantage of that we're not, and there's also some realities of what is currently facing our community that we're not facing. That's just part of this conversation we're unwilling to have for whatever reason.
When we talk about healthcare, right? And I talk about being a Prince George's County resident. If I was anywhere else if I was not in a space at the time where I was uninsured, because of where I live, because of my upbringing, I would have never been offered an HIV test. Based on my sexual history, I wouldn't have been offered it. But because I found myself in a public health clinic uninsured, it was automatically something that was a checklist to happen. The clinic was surprised and I was surprised. We often find, particularly among Black women, many of them are not part of the checklist space that we're looking for HIV. And why is that? That's a problem when we talk about race. We talk about insurance, and, Dr. Diaz talked about primary care providers, adolescent care providers. We're testing at the DMV, but are we educating at the DMV? Every place we intersect as Black and brown people, we should be talking about HIV in our untraditional houses of faith, houses of worship, synagogues. We have to be having real conversations, because that's where the real people are. They're not necessarily knocking on the door of the HIV service organization. We have to go into the community because, again, doors have been shut. It's no secret that the oppression that Black and brown people have experienced across all sectors of health, life, and breath, right? So if we know that they won't come, we have to create opportunities to allow them in, but also show up where they are, show where they live and where they breathe and where they shop and where they use their resources.
As far as the transgender community, and let me really say this from the start, because it's very dear to my heart. When we transition to be happy. And because of the way society treats us, we ended up losing our spouse, our children, our homes, our friends, our job. And our job is where we can get that insurance to cover a lot of things that we need to do. And a lot of times when we lose that, a lot of the girls and guys, they lose that insurance, and then they end up going to the internet to get them off the web. And that's very bad, especially if somebody has a chronic disease such as high blood pressure or diabetes, all of those things where at least when you go in to a doctor, they're going to do blood work on you. They're going to give you the kind of medication that you really need to control that level. And if you don't have the insurance, you're just going to end up getting that stuff from somebody on the street or, like I said, on the website. And that's very bad. We need to be able to reach out or have some kind of service where these trans people out on the street can get the services they need to stay healthy and safe out there. Everybody really needs to reach out and understand what and who transgender people are. And if you understand that, I think you're going to get a better light into who we are, such as we're not what you see on Jerry Springer show. We're military people, we're firefighters, we're nurses, doctors, judges, politicians, actors and actresses. Talk to us and find out and understand where we're coming from. Sex workers out there that are transgender, this is called survival sex because they don't have what you need on your table for food. You don't have a place to lay your head down to sleep. All of these are very important to us, and maybe you can help us so we can be able to combat this HIV thing as well.
What can the people that are watching this show, that are at home, what can they do right now to do their part to help cancel HIV?
Those of you listening at home, think or share if you have had a test for HIV recently, right? You should know the answer to that question. And if you don't, and you haven't been tested recently, well, do it. What we are promoting here is knowledge. And the first step for you to know if you can do something is to know your status. So go get tested. Today is a good day, a good reminder, and many places will be testing. But throughout the year, there are many testing sites. Once you know your HIV status, then you can do something to remain HIV negative or to remain healthy by getting treatment if you are HIV positive. Lastly, if you think that this is a topic that is uncomfortable and that HIV is somehow something that some people deserve, well, let me tell you something. People who know their HIV status are in a better position than you, and they're doing something about their health. So think about that.
I want to say thank you again to Karen Holmes, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez Diaz, Linda Scruggs, and Diane Young.